I've never given up on paint. I don't know why. I started out a painter in college and I still love it. And there's something physical about the paint itself that I relate to as a human being. And even though I deal with the mechanical aspects of it, I'm physically pulling, manipulating. I even still have a few brushes that I use, and people don't believe it because they're put away. When they walk into my studio, they don't see brushes around. But I use brushes minimally when I begin, but then I negate that by pulling paint across the surfaces I've already put down. The paint has a physical connection for me, and I find there's still a rich beauty of color, surface, and that the fact that I made that surface. And it's not just, my tools are the mechanical things like the computer and the inkjet prints and the laminate photographs, and they're works of art too. I see them as like drawings and things like that, and even photos, and I see them as pictures. I'm making pictures, but my favorite pictures are the ones that I make with the paint by my hands, emulating the look of the things that are like the studies and the drawings. As far as the materials that are important to my work, that's grown in the last 15 years as I've gone along, to where at first it was one material that was important, which was the oil-based enamel paints and polyurethane, because I was looking for a new kind of paint that would give me a certain look that was tied to the photomechanical process that I was using at the time, which were photocopies and Xerox machines. I needed a more fluid liquid paint that could make a glossy surface that I could create a smooth, seamless surface with, and traditional paints don't do that in the way that oil enamels do. But as the years have gone on, the materials have broadened, where if you ask me that question today, what's important, I would say it's the oil enamels and polyurethane, it's the aluminum surfaces that I'm using now that add to the mechanical. It's also photocopies, disrupted inkjet prints that I purposely disrupt to create a creative look that's more unique and different, but still has the elements of the mechanical in it, even though now I control it with a mouse. But then I bring it back into the analog by making a painting of it by hand, and that's the hard part. In my own work, the ideas of interconnected forms, even how we do our modern interiors and architecture began to filter into the work. And I put those up months and months before the paintings began to take on that sort of form. Well, right there, it's on the painting, So these things creep into the work. This is a photograph of Venetian blinds, and that was an early idea why I wanted the lines zipping through the work. I began relating it to not only images that I saw, but also to TV and computer screen images, pixel forms that do it. These are some of the early paint drips that were moved on copy machines as a photocopy of moving paint drips. The most enjoyable part of the whole process, I think, is when I know a painting's finished. And it does have that beauty, and it does have that gesture and the mechanical coexisting, and I can sit for hours looking at that painting, seeing all the little things that were intentional, the things that were accidental, and how they come together on that surface simultaneously, that I sit for hours sometimes just I'll go up at night with a glass of wine and just sit and study the work, and just in awe when I get one to work. I mean, I literally scrape off and destroy so many. The ones that get out of the studio are the good ones, the great ones. I edit more and more the older I get, because I don't want a bad painting out there in the public. But I think one of the greatest thrills for me is the moment the painting's finished. And as you asked earlier, when do I know it's finished? There is this intuitiveness that you make that call. And sometimes I wait 24 hours because I'm unsure. The next day I can always tell by then when it's done, and I'm ready to start the next one. But that thrill of seeing the work finished and all of those ideas that spent like a month coming together, and there it is. It's like this weird sense of time. All of this time is condensed into that one surface. And to me, that's maybe the beauty of a painting. Because the paintings for me take weeks and weeks, but you're seeing all those weeks on that surface in 1 second as a viewer. And that's the beauty of painting.